So many of us are sitting on talents and ideas that unfortunately are never going to see the light of day. I bet you've got something that you've been sitting on. You've got an idea, or you know that you're good at something. You know that you have this thing that you're going to enjoy. You know that it plays at your strengths, but for some reason, you're just sitting on it and you're not doing anything about it. And maybe you've mentioned it to someone already and, it's come to the point where they're asking you like, oh, have you started that thing? Or how's that thing going? And you don't really want to say that the thing hasn't started at all. And the thing is just on a back burner. And what you end up saying is probably something like, I've got a lot of other things going on. This week's just been so packed. I'm going away. So by the time I get back, I'm going to need to, catch up with things. I need to learn how to do all of this other stuff. And I'm not really sure about it anymore. It's probably not for me. But really deep down, you know it is for you and you know you want to do it. Why do we pretend that we haven't followed through on it? Because we don't have the time, we don't have the thing that we need, and we need to learn some stuff, and I don't know if this is for me. Why do we do that? Because I know I've done that in the past. I've done it with this podcast. So this podcast was meant to have launched about 5 months ago. In fact, it was meant to have launched about a year ago, right? So I went through that whole process of, I don't have the time, I've got these other things going on, there's blah, 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 blah. And really, I knew I was BSing myself. And I think a lot of us are BSing ourselves, if I'm honest with you. And we don't actually tell people the real reason why we're not making a move on something. We just dress it up in all these other reasons of like, I don't have the time, I don't have this, I don't have that. But when I thought about why I hadn't made a move on something that I wanted to do for such a long time, what it actually boiled down to was something that not a lot of people want to admit. They just don't. They don't want to admit it. And it's the fact that we are worried about looking stupid. We're worried about what other people are going to think. We're worried that people are going to look at the thing that we've done and think to themselves, well, that's rubbish. Why are they doing that? So we just don't act on it. We eventually forget about it, but then it comes up again. Because the real reason why you're not doing it isn't because you don't want to do it. It's because you're worried about what people are going to think. You're worried about looking like you're not good at the thing that you want to do. But the problem with that is, and I'm going to keep it real, you're not going to be good at it when you start. You're probably going to be quite bad. Let's be honest. And you know what? That's bloody normal. Because how can you be good? How can you be great at something that you've not practiced? I mean, unless you're born with like a natural talent, fair play to you. But a lot of the time, things that we want to do, we're starting from ground zero. If you're going into like the content world, maybe you're just not naturally born with that whole great on camera, can just talk and go off on riffs and, be fantastic on the camera. Most people aren't. They're just not, right? And yet we use the fact that we are starting from ground zero and that we're not that great at it yet as the reason to just not do it at all, because we don't want friends, family, neighbors, co-workers to see this thing and think, oh my God, like they're rubbish at this. Well, obviously we're rubbish at it because we haven't done it for long enough yet, right? So we hold ourselves at ransom at what we think other people are going to think. We dangle the idea of doing the thing that we want to do and then we snatch it away because of what we think other people are going to think. And by doing that, we just don't end up living the life that we want to live. Imagine constantly locking away the things that you want to do and experience in life because you're worried about what people are going to think. Do you think that's a happy way to live? Like, I don't think it is. Because we're depriving ourselves of the things that we want to do, that we know are going to make us happy, that we know are going to give us that excitement. And instead, we just follow this path of what we think other people are going to find acceptable. I mean, I don't want to live like that. So going back to my example of putting off doing this podcast for so long. I put it off because I knew that in this day and age, video podcasts is where it's at. Audio podcasts, yeah, like fantastic. But I realized that platforms are pushing video content, video podcast content a lot more. And that's the way that the market's going. So in my head, I'm like, well, I'm going to need to do a video podcast. So I've already realized that the podcast that I want to create, for it to have the best chance of taking off and being seen by the most people, for me to have the biggest chance of that, it probably needs to be in video format. So I came to this realization that filled me with so much dread because I don't come from a background of doing video. If you were to say to me, do a podcast that's just audio, I got no problem with that. And that is how I started my first podcast. It was audio. But I had a resistance around doing video. And when people kept asking me about, so where's the podcast? Because I'd already told people about it, right? I'm like, I'm going to do this podcast. I'm going to launch it in January, blah, blah, blah. And then now I've got people asking me about it. And I'm saying all these things like, oh, you know, the time, and I'm just ironing things out, and, you know, all of these kind of things. But really, when I stopped to think about why I was putting it off for such an unreasonable amount of time, it was because I was scared that I'm going to look stupid on camera and that I'm going to be really bad at this. And I had to have a conversation with myself about it because I was like, okay, do you want to do this? Yes. So once I've established that the answer to that question is yes, now I need to get rid of the BS. Why have I not taken action on it? And the top level answer is because I don't have the time. Okay, why don't you have the time? Because I'm not making time for it. Why are you not making time for it? Because I'm avoiding it. Why are you avoiding it? Because I don't want to go on camera. Why don't you want to go on camera? Because I don't want to look bloody stupid and for people to see it and think, oh my God, she's rubbish at this. And once I came to that realization, I understood that I'm just letting these imaginary thoughts rule my life. I'm letting what I think people are going to think dictate my next actions when it comes to something that I actually want to do. So I decided I was just going to do it. I didn't have all the equipment, you know, I didn't fully understand how to use the software that I'm using to do this with. I just thought, you got to do this now because otherwise you're just going to drag it out. And once I actually did it, I realized something that I felt a bit disappointed about, because I realized that I wasted so much time being afraid of doing something. And then when I actually did it, I realized that there was nothing to be afraid of. The fear and anticipation that you have swirling around in your mind before you do something is so elevated. It's like you build it up in your mind, you're building it up, and now you're feeling it emotionally, you're feeling it in your body, and then you're reacting to that. And then you actually go and do the thing. And there's a sense of relief when you do it, because you realize that it wasn't such a big deal in the first place. And I think a lot of us have that thing that we've built up in our minds so big, and we avoid it. And the more we avoid it, the bigger deal it becomes. And now we're feeling it in the body, and we're getting that sense of anxiety every time we think about it. And then I thought back to other things that I've avoided, that I've built up in my mind. And every single time, it was never as dreadful as I had made it out to be in my head. In fact, again, there was a sense of relief, a sense of relief that, oh, it's done. And it wasn't that much of a bigger deal. The world hasn't collapsed. The ground hasn't been removed from under me. And you realize that by just feeling that fear and doing it anyway, you start building your resilience when it comes to things like that, because you understand that a lot of the time, the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions around this topic, they're not real. We're conjuring them up in ourselves and we're feeling that emotion, and then it becomes real to us. But in physical reality, it's not real. It's not the end of the world if you go do this thing and you're not good at it. So again, it's like you won't be good at it in the first place. most likely, most of the time, because you're just starting out. So that's something I think we need to just accept. And another element around this is that we give people, strangers, random people on the internet, power over our lives and what we do, because we don't want to get a negative response to what we're doing. And I think if you're doing something where you're building in public, whether it's like content or you're on the stage, it could be anything, right? Something that you're building that people can see. You're not building in private. There's always going to be that element of someone having something negative to say. And we cannot let that dictate our actions, because there always will be someone. So if you realize that and just accept, okay, maybe along the way, someone's going to think or say something not that nice about what I'm doing, or it might be the opposite of what I want to hear. All right, so what? They'll say or think that thing, and then they're just cracking on with their day, right? They're not thinking about you for the entire day or for the whole week. They just drop a comment or they write something. And now if you decide to keep that and carry that with you and let it dictate what you do, who's controlling your life? Not you. So I know it's a lot easier said than done, but if you become aware of this, become aware of the fact that the fear that we have around these things is generally conjured up in our own minds, and that what we think people will say or think about what we're doing doesn't actually have power over us if we just decide, I'm going to do this thing anyway. You're in a better position to be able to just go ahead and create what you want to create. So if you've got that thing that you're sitting on, maybe ask yourself, honestly, why have you not taken action on it yet? And if you come to the realization that it's because you don't want to look bad, or you don't want to look like you're not good at something, or you don't want someone to think that, what the hell is she doing? Then you're letting these things control your outcomes. And if it's something that you genuinely want to do, just try and take a small action on it and get going, because you'll realize once you do it that it wasn't that much of a bigger deal in the first place.